Well, howdy, partners. Welcome to the Pine Box.
What up, shawty? You gonna party like it's your birthday? Of course you are, because this is the Pine Box, and there's no other place to be on a any day. You know, any day that you guys are listening to this. I'm eating some grapes. I'm sorry, guys. I just got off of work. Just got done doing some work for this fucking construction company. I don't even know why I'm doing the podcast right now. I have no idea, because I'm fucking exhausted. But I wanted to do one this week. You know, I did the cheap shoes one on Monday, and that was fun as fuck. But I wanted to record the Friday one as usual, and then I'll probably post this tomorrow on Saturday. Because right after this, I will be heading to try out for the vocalist position of this band. I can't specify which band. I wish I could, but I don't know if they've made it really official that they're looking for a vocalist. So, a band. I'm going to be going out and trying out for that as soon as we're done here. But yeah. You know, what day of the week do you usually listen to the Pine Box on, you know? I mean, one thing I want everybody to do, if you have a YouTube account and you're listening to this and you have an account so you can comment, go down into the comments right now and tell me what you like to do while you're listening to the podcast, because that's, most of the reason that I put this out is so people can have something to listen to, while they're doing other shit. It's kind of like, like when I go like to the gym, or I'm jogging, or like I'm fucking, doing dishes or whatever, most of the time I'll listen to a record. That's like most of what I'm doing is I'll go on Spotify and listen to a whole record beginning to end, and just, I'll cycle through a couple different records. But sometimes I like to listen to an old podcast, because it's good, because it's nice and lengthy. You can kind of jump in anywhere, and within a few seconds you can figure out what they're talking about and kind of key into it. So tell me what you like to do while you're listening to the podcast. Are you fucking are you jerking off right now? I hope so. Are you spraying down the outside of your house to fucking get rid of cobwebs? Are you on your morning to commute to work? Are you on your way to go cheat on your wife? Because if so, shame on you, okay? Fucking shame on you. What a piece of shit. What a fucking lie your life has turned out to be. Fucking shame on you. But I'm glad you're listening to the podcast. At least you're giving me a few views on YouTube, It's semi worth it. It's a little bit worth it. So while I was walking home after work, people who live in Lodi, that there's a big there's a railroad, or there's a railway, a fucking rail track, a place where a train goes. There's one passing through town, and as I was walking over it, another person was walking over it, going the opposite direction. So we kind of locked eyes for a second, and he looked exactly like Vito Spatafore. And for those of you who don't know who Vito Spatafore is, he was a character on The Sopranos. I'm a huge Sopranos geek. One thing I love to fucking do is rewatch The Sopranos, because, not only can you, like I was saying with podcasts, you can kind of jump into The Sopranos anywhere, and you'll kind of understand what's going on. Sometimes you won't, because there is... And actually, you know what? I'm wrong. You can't jump just anywhere into the fucking Sopranos. You really can't. It's a fucking really nuanced, complex show. It's not an easy show to just leap into. I don't even know why I said that. My brain's a little bit fucking fried from this long day of work I just had. So this Vito Spatafore character is the only, at least openly, the only gay character in the Sopranos or in the DeMeo crime family. I'm pretty sure the Sopranos are part of the DeMeo family. There's lots of different. Again, it's a very nuanced show. There's a lot of characters who have different, family allegiances and family fucking alliances and whatnot. So this Spatafore guy is originally, I think he was part of Junior's crew. For anybody who hasn't watched The Sopranos, you're not going to know what the fuck I'm talking about right now, and that's okay. But for Sopranos fans, you know, Vito Spatafore was the he was I think a capo for Junior's crew at one point, and then he kind of moved over to Tony's crew once Junior started fucking flipping out. I highly recommend that anybody who hasn't seen The Sopranos yet. It's been out for a long fucking time. It's been out for a very long time. So you should go ahead and watch that, especially now that Gandolfini's dead. You know, the main character, James Gandolfini. A fucking spectacular dude, you know? He was in lots of shit. Never really as a big main character. But for this Sopranos show, it was like his main role. And my god, dude, some of the fucking performances he gives in this show, you know, he was a spectacular actor, James Gandolfini. He was a fucking spectacular actor. He plays Tony Soprano, and the whole show is kind of about, parts of it are about the interaction between the mob families and the interaction between, crime syndicates, and they fucking, one crew is not doing so good with another crew, so they kind of take one person out, but then that other crew takes that as a sign of disrespect, so they retaliate, and, then the big guys in New York come down to try to mediate it all, and they're like, hey, well, we don't have to get violent, and then, somebody whacks someone from New York. It's very fucking complicated. There's lots of, and again, like, when you hop into an episode in, fucking season 4, there's so much shit that's gone on between all the families and all the, One other aspect of it is that even though these dudes all do crime together and they all kind of fuck each other over, they're all sort of friends. They all, like, go to each other's birthday parties, and they all go to, like, luncheons with each other, and they fucking, their wives cook food for, people and shit. They're, like, a super close-knit community. But they also kind of have this darker, seedier side. So even things that, like, at dinner parties and fucking birthday parties there's this one episode where Tony, the main character, his son is having a what the fuck is it called? The Catholic thing? Is it communion? I think that's where you eat the body of the dead god or whatever. What is it called? It might be a communion. I don't know. But so Tony kind of gets this weird look from one of his dudes, named Big Pussy. That's actually the dude's name. I mean, his name is actually Sal Bumpancero, but his nickname that he goes by is Big Pussy. And Tony fucking, like, gets a dirty look from him, or he gets some kind of weird vibe, and then somehow from that Tony gathers that guy is actually a rat. He's actually feeding information to the government. And Tony finds this out through a dream. The other cool aspect of this show is that Tony has dreams, and they're all very symbolic, and they don't always go into the specifics of what the dreams mean. And some of it is kind of Lynchian, for you David Lynch fans. It's a little bit Lynchian in that it's not always a dream. The dreams and the real life encounters actually sometimes kind of bleed into one another, and there's certain encounters that Tony has that kind of suggest that maybe it really didn't happen the way it's being shown on screen. Maybe that's kind of Tony's interpretation of it, of how he's viewing the situation. It's very interesting. It's a very well-directed, well-written show. I highly, highly fucking recommend it. It's some of the best dramatic television that's ever been on TV. What the fuck was I just talking about? But yeah, so it kind of these little interactions that they have that aren't even really violent in nature or it's them screwing each other over, you know. Some of it is really just kind of everyday shit that, because they're such powerful men, they interpret it as, oh, he's gonna make a move on me, or oh, he disrespected my family by walking into the fucking room with his shoes on or some shit. It's always something stupid. But there are these really powerful guys, so these fucking crazy, you know, like shit that you would, you know, your fucking uncle gets too drunk at your birthday party or some shit. Normally, because you're not a mobster. Well, I don't know who's listening to this right now, but most people are not mobsters, so, you know, your uncle gets too drunk at your birthday party, who gives a shit? He was just getting drunk. But in this world, somebody, somebody shows up and they're a little bit too high. They smoked a joint before they came over. That's no good. You can't. That's not. That's not accepted. They take that as a sign of weakness, that you're addicted to something, or that you're you're dependent on something. You know. So a lot of times, and one of my favorite characters in the show is Christopher Moltisanti. He's actually probably my favorite character. He is Tony's nephew, who is sort of being groomed to be the second in command of the DeMeo crime family. So he ends up getting addicted to heroin in like the second season, and they don't find out for a long time, but the signs of it kind of show. And sometimes he shows up to things and he's too fucking high to handle it, so Tony like gets pissed off at him and he's like, what the fuck are you doing to your body, and all this shit. It's very interesting. I don't want to ramble too fucking much about this show, but it's one of my favorite shows. It's definitely one of those shows that it's that, The Office, and Seinfeld. Those are like my three shows that I really can just watch, day in and day out. If there's nothing going on and I just am chilling and reading a book or whatever, I'll fucking put on something on my laptop. And generally, like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Seinfeld, The Office, or The Sopranos. Because one thing that's cool about The Sopranos is it's really funny too. It's not just all gloom and doom and drama. Towards like the excuse me. Towards like the 6th season, it does get pretty fucking doom and gloom. And don't get me wrong, there are some very dark aspects to this show. This show gets very, very fucking dark. But a lot of it's funny too, because Tony also has to deal with his home life and his wife and his kids, who are very funny. Again, towards the end of the series, it kind of gets to be not so funny. But yeah. And one thing that's so fucking dark about this show is that they don't really talk to their family a lot about what's going on. The families kind of know. The families kind of understand what's going on with the respective mobsters in that family, but for a large part of it, the kids just think they go do something. They don't really know. They just don't fucking really know. They know that they're rich as fuck, and they know that their family says, oh yeah, we work in the waste management business. But, eventually they kind of come around to it in one way or another. But one of the aspects of this show that's very interesting is that the characters who are violent and who have killed people and who have done really, really, really horrible things, you see some of these events in the show, but it gets really fucking horrible, the things they do to each other. These characters actually feel it. It's not something that they just do and get over it. Eventually it starts haunting them, and they start having these fucked up dreams because of all the shit that they've done. There's this one character, Paulie Walnuts, who saying that name out loud kind of sounds silly, but it's his character's name is Paulie, and they call him Paulie Walnuts. And he'll wake up. So here's the progression of it. You'll be seeing something fucked up on screen happening, some weird, ethereal, surreal shit, and then all of a sudden you snap to Paulie like it was his dream. Like Paulie was dreaming this weird shit the whole time, and then his wife will come up and be like, you were scaring the kids, you were yelling and screaming and cursing in the night. And, you know, it's because this dude's so fucked up. He's done so many horrible things. And I think that's kind of where they spent, you know, the mobster guys, they spend a lot of money. They fucking go out to dinner every night. They buy expensive suits. They buy expensive cars. Whatever the fuck they want to do. And it's because they're kind of trying to take their mind off the fact that they've done some really horrible things. So at night, when their mind goes to roam, they kind of... It all comes back to them. It all becomes real again. It's very surreal. It's a very surreal show. Couldn't recommend it any more highly. In fact, there's a common rift. There's a common like joke, I guess, and it's mostly on the subreddits that I go on. But there's this kind of joke between Sopranos fans and Breaking Bad fans that, oh, you know, Sopranos fans think Breaking Bad sucks, and Breaking Bad fans think Sopranos suck. They're almost the same show. They're almost the same fucking show. It's basically a dude is doing something wrong and tries to hide it from his family. And what's interesting is that with Breaking Bad, Walter kind of starts out good and becomes bad. But with The Sopranos, it's the exact opposite. Tony, well, not even the exact opposite. Tony is, from the first episode, you've established that he's a bad man. He's the classic anti-hero. You root for him, but you're not really sure why, because the things he's doing are really fucked up. So by the beginning of the show, you already know the dude's a fucked up guy. And by the end of the show, you kind of... It just kind of explains the way he got there. The man he was in the first episode is kind of explained by the end of the show, because of... You see his life progress, and you see just the way his fucking life is, and how his family impacts him and all this shit. He's a very twisted man, but again, the show fans love to hate on each other, because I think when a lot of people watch the first, you got to understand this, the pilot of The Sopranos was filmed in 1999. Okay? It was a very early show in this kind of crime drama genre on HBO and subsequent other TV channels. He was sort of the first of its kind, so it did a lot of experimenting, did a lot of weird shit, but the first, I guess, season, you could say, they were kind of trying to turn it into a Goodfellas show, because, you know, they were trying to rope people in, didn't want to get too surreal with it and shit. But by season 2, this fucking show takes off. You will not be able to hang on to your seat enough, dude. The show is so encapsulating, or what's the word? Captivating. It's so captivating, dude. And, you know, I love Breaking Bad too. I was hooked from the first episode of Breaking Bad. With The Sopranos, it kind of took me like... I don't know. The Sopranos and Sons of Anarchy are very similar in that aspect, where they... It took me a few episodes for me to get where they were going with the show. You know, a lot of these macho TV shows of, oh, they're mobsters and they don't take any shit and stuff. A lot of times it kind of turns me off. But this show gets so deep with it, and so does Sons of Anarchy, that it kind of makes up for it. With Breaking Bad, that depth and that sincerity is like there from the beginning. You can already kind of tell from the first episode, this is going to be a weird, crazy show. But they kind of love to hate on each other because, you know, Breaking Bad fans sort of see The Sopranos as the... What's a good comparison? They just kind of see it as not nuanced. They see it as a kind of a shitty HBO show, which I totally understand, because I've been there. I understand that viewpoint, because I look at a game like Game of Thrones, which I haven't seen. So anybody who's gonna fucking go down in the comments and tear me a new asshole, just understand I have never seen the show. I've watched a few select scenes. I've watched maybe one complete episode. I think it's boring as fuck. I think it's fucking uninteresting. I think the characters, you know, don't captivate me, and maybe it's because it's set in a fantasy setting, which I usually don't really get too interested in, except with, like, you know, the Dungeons and Dragons shit and Skyrim and that kind of junk. But in general, fantasy settings don't usually capture my interest very long. But that's enough about TV shows. We don't need to fucking talk about TV shows that long. I've been talking about this shit for probably like 20 minutes. But yeah, you know, this is gonna be kind of a short episode because I didn't plan too much material for this. But I would like to mention really quick that the Monday podcast with Cheap Shoes was awesome, and I know a lot of people told me, you know, you couldn't hear what we were saying very much, and you know, we kind of talked over each other. I don't give a shit. You know, I hear your concerns. I knew that they were going to be there from the beginning. I kind of already knew that was going to be a problem because, you know, the way I had that set up, I couldn't get everybody individually mic'd. So it ended up just kind of being a garbled mess at some points. But it was a fun podcast to do. I had a fucking blast interviewing those guys. They're all so interesting and you know, I appreciate all four of them, you know, for different reasons. You know, I appreciate Nelson because I think he's a lot like me. We're both pretty young guys in this scene that the Stockton and the surrounding areas have kind of sprouted up. Me and Nelson are very similar. We're pretty young dudes. You know, we like a lot of the same shit. You know, I appreciate Matt because he's just got such a fucking great work ethic. That dude is always drawing something, always, you know, doing music with the band. They fucking play shows. It feels like they play a couple shows a month. You know, Richard just has a spectacular voice, one of the best fucking voices in hardcore. And Julian, man, that dude, fucking Jesus. Like, he puts out so much, like, the body of work on that guy. And not only that, but just with Pity Party alone. You know, I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day. That guy, you know, he has put in so much fucking work with that band. You know, Pity Party has done a lot of fucking work. And they've put out, I think he said there was a full-length and an EP. I've only ever really listened to the EP. But that guy legitimately has put in so much fucking work for his craft. And it's paid off in a lot of ways. I think he's put out some really great music. But you can definitely tell he's just been through some shit, you know. He's been dragged through the mud. That dude has fucking seen some shit, you know. And I love all four of those dudes individually just for... They're all super interesting guys, and it was great to interview them. You know, I'm really disappointed we couldn't get Mitchell on the podcast because he seems like he's a very nice guy too. I've only gotten to speak to him maybe twice, but he seems like a very sweet guy. I guess he was in Mexico, sticking his thumb up dog assholes or some shit. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. But yeah. You know, I'm trying to get a better mic setup for these podcasts because you know, for me and maybe one other guest, like the podcast I did with Andrew, it sounded great. It sounded fine, you know, and it works fine for just me, you know, my own voice. But when it gets to you know, 2 or 3 guests, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I'm gonna stick to at the most 3 guests. You know, four guests was a lot. It was fun, and it didn't really come out too bad, but it was just, you know, it was just a lot. And I kind of try to keep the podcast to where we're not talking over each other, so that everybody gets their say and whatnot. But yeah, I've kind of decided that I'm gonna try to stick to 1 guest at a time. You know, maybe get 2 in if you know, somebody wants to come on, and then you've always got to kind of make room for that third person who's going to be tagging along with whoever's going to, you know, be on the podcast. So I want to be able to mic them too. So yeah, you know, we're going to try to keep it to like 2 guests, or 1 guest, because I feel like I have a better ability to hone in on that person, or zone, you know, focus on that person's ideas and getting their getting information out of them. So yeah, I'm gonna try to individually mic the people who come on as soon as I can get that done. Oh geez, this fucking wave of tiredness just hit me. I don't know how I'm gonna fucking try out for this band. I create too much stuff for myself to do. I create so many things that I have to do. Fuck. But it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait, man. I actually haven't been not to get off. I guess I covered the mic situation pretty well, but I haven't been the vocalist for a band, or like the main vocalist for a band, since well, that's not true actually, because I'm kind of the main vocalist in Totally Out of Place, but Totally Out of Place is such a garbled mess of noise that, you know, I may as well just be a guitarist. Speaking of which, I might be doing a collab with this glitch artist here pretty soon, which will be pretty tight. With Totally Out of Place, me and Seth might do something, but more on that later. But yeah, I haven't really felt like the lead vocalist of a band since my band VM Vitae in high school. Haven't really been the front man in a group for a while. It's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking being the front man, and you know, I'm not much of a singer. I'm really not. My voice isn't really super suited to do that kind of thing. I can yell. I'm really good at yelling. I'm really fucking good at yelling at people. But as far as vocally, like, you know, like matching melody and shit, I'm not that great. And I also can't do that thing that other artists do. They have that like patent, or not patent, but like it's kind of signature scream, the metalcore scream, you know, that people do. I don't really know how to do that. I kind of did it a little bit in VM Vitae, but I wasn't super great at it. I kind of got better towards the end, but then the band kind of disbanded. So as it stands, you know, I'm kind of trying to do sort of a combo between singing melody wise and then kind of yelling to bring some harshness to it. So any of you vocalists, especially like Scrams vocalists, throw your fucking tips and advice down in the comments, man, because I want to be a good vocalist. I want to get this spot so I can start being a vocalist again, but we'll see how it goes. But what's really cool about Pine and Palm is that I get to mainly just focus on guitar. I do sometimes throw in some vocals every once in a while. Jesus. You know, we do some I do some harmonies every once in a while with Cheyenne. But you know, what's cool is I get to mainly just stick to lead guitar. I mainly just get to focus on my licks and my, you know, I like being a lead guitarist. It's very, you know, it's funny because I never really saw myself being a lead guitarist either. I'm not a really great guitarist or anything. I would call myself intermediate, but I'm certainly better at guitar than I am at vocals. So, but it's just cool being a lead guitarist for a band, man. I've always kind of had a thing for dudes like Kirk Hammett, and obviously fucking Jimi Hendrix is my fucking hero. You know, the lead guitarist ethos is always one of great mystery and great power. But so yeah, vocalists, give me some advice, man. Give me some fucking pointers. That'd be really nice. So it looks like we're gonna take a break here. Let me check something really quick. Just want to make sure I don't get anything with this artist we're gonna play wrong. This is Cardinal Sins. This song that we're gonna play is called "Desolate" by Cardinal Sins. And let me just grab the fucking Bandcamp here, because I always fuck up the Bandcamps. You know, I always fucking, you know. Hold on one sec. This is so unprofessional. I can hear everybody saying, "God damn, Tanner, you're so fucking unprofessional." I know. I know, man. Here it is. Okay, finally. Fuck, man. That's some dead air. But yeah, so you can check them out at Cardinal 209. Yeah, cardinal209.bandcamp.com is their Bandcamp. They're a fantastic fucking band, dude. Their bassist Stevie is fucking. He's just one of the sweetest, most generous dudes you'll ever get to meet. So yeah, check out their 4-song EP, the Cardinal Sins EP, on Spotify and also on Bandcamp. Again, this is Desolate by Cardinal Sins. Yeah. That was fucking Cardinal Sins. The track was called Desolate. I'm just finishing up my grapes here, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck your shit. But yeah, again, Cardinal209 Cardinal209.bandcamp.com. Give that shit a listen, dude. The whole EP is fire. Like, those dudes dropped a seriously, like, phenomenal fucking EP. They play at the Batcave a lot, this place up in Oakdale. And it's this really great venue. And, excuse me. The way I found out about that, that band specifically was, I went to a New Year's show up in Patterson. It was this New Year's, actually. This New Year's that passed. New Year's 2017. And Cardinal played. They were called Cardinal. And you know, I was too fucking wasted to even understand what was going on. So, you know, who knows how they played that night. Then I went to Cardinal Palooza, which I did a write-up for Indy Stockton. So you guys can check that out. It's a pretty fucking funny article that I wrote. It was pretty wild. But yeah, man, they killed it at Cardinal Palooza. It was a badass show. And then I ended up seeing them at Super Fatty Makeout Sesh, which was Malaska's tour kickoff for their first tour. Or for their second tour? One of their tours. But yeah, and I think that's where they announced that they were going to be changing their name to Cardinal Sins, which, you know, we were talking about it on the podcast with Max and Miles, but I really like the name. I love the name Cardinal Sins. I think it highlights the sound that they strive for, you know. But yeah, bless those dudes. Fucking bless. You know, they released one of the best fucking albums of this year. By far. So, we're gonna read something here. This was an Instagram post by Brian Scary, who is a photographer by National Geographic. So, what I saw, the first thing that I saw that interested me, because, you know, I am a very curious person, so I when I see something that interests me, I kind of do a little bit more investigating, you know. So this says it was a giant picture of a squid. It was a giant squid, and I was like, what the fuck? And so this post says, a Humboldt squid expels a cloud of ink at night in Mexico's Sea of Cortez. These animals can grow to lengths of 13 feet and have a beak like a parrot that can remove quarter-sized chunks of flesh. Their arms and tentacles are lined with as many as 24,000 tiny teeth, which they use to attack and hold their prey. Historically found in southern waters, climate change and warming sea temperatures has resulted in this species moving further northward, with Humboldt squid now being seen even in Alaska. Diving with them in open water at night was a little unnerving. They just materialize in the darkness, glowing and pulsing with light. With their jet propulsion, they move unlike other predators such as sharks and approach me on all axes, moving in from all directions. For more tales for the sea and photographs, follow at Brian Scary. So that's fucking terrifying. Just you know, it's crazy to me that people do it. I mean, I'm really interested in marine biology and marine photography and stuff like that. So for a while, that's actually what I wanted to do, was you know, dive down and take pictures of incredible animals down there, you know. But it's fucking scary. It's scary that it's Brian Scary. It's scary Brian, you know. That the people actually fucking do this. They go dive down into the water with all those aliens down there, and fucking, you know, try not to get eaten. You know, these fucking squids have teeth lining their arms that they can just flail at you and bite you. God damn it! And then they like drag you into their parrot mouths. They're aliens. The fucking squids and octopuses, they got dropped here from another fucking planet. They're so smart and they're so big, you know, a lot of them, and they're basically designed to be just you know. There's a great and this doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, but there's a great documentary on YouTube about octopuses. It's like if you YouTube octopus documentary, it's the first fucking thing that pops up. Just watch it. It's fucking terrifying. These goddamn animals are so smart They can figure out, octopuses can literally figure out how to climb out of their tank in aquariums and go fuck around in the museum or wherever the fuck they are, in the aquarium. They're so smart. And what's even creepier is that they can get their there's a little membrane that surrounds their mouth, so that it's like this little tiny little membrane. So as long as the container that they're trying to get to is big enough to fit that membrane into it, their whole body can fit into it. The biggest and hardest part of their body is the thing that holds their mouth. So their whole big head thing that they have, which, as I've come to understand it, is actually more like it's actually more like where their skull would be. I don't know. I don't really fully understand it, but they can fit that whole bulbous thing into any fucking container. They can fit their tentacles into it and smush themselves down until they're hella tiny. That's what they do for a lot of times for hunting. What these octopuses will do is they'll scrunch down into a big cluster of rocks, and then they'll, launch themselves out at whatever the fuck's coming by, It's really spooky. It's so fucking scary. And people are, including me, we fascinate over aliens. We're very fascinated by the idea of, on another planet, there's a vastly different form of life somewhere out in the universe, on some other planet or some shit. But it's right here. It's down below the ocean. There's a whole different world down there. Think of it this way. Humans breathe oxygen. Anything that lives on the land on the surface of Earth breathes oxygen. But these fucking creatures breathe water like it's air. They breathe water into their lungs like it's air. So just to think about how structurally different these fucking animals have to be to exist down there, they may as well be aliens. They literally may as well be aliens. And this fucking article's talking about Humboldt squids that are, it said 13 feet fucking long. That's 2 people. That's 2 fucking people long. 2 people stacked end to end would be probably less than a Humboldt squid. These things swim hundreds of miles, up to Alaska from Mexico. Hundreds of miles. It just baffles me. There's fucking aliens that will travel hundreds of miles just if it gets too cold or too warm for them. And they were saying in this documentary, which got me because I'm a fucking, I'm a paranoid motherfucker, but they were saying in this documentary that if octopuses get any smart, they could basically take over planet Earth. If octopuses have figured out, and any biologist who's listening to this is going to be like, I thought you were talking about squids. Squids and octopuses are 2 fucking different animals, but to me they look the fucking same, so we're going to talk about octopuses. But octopuses can literally unscrew jars. They've figured out how to unscrew jars and take they reach down and take a clam out of it, or a fucking crab or some shit. They're really fucking smart. And one thing that we don't really fully understand with octopuses is their ability to speak to one another, because octopuses can change their skin both the texture and color of their skin to communicate different things to each other. So, and not even to each other, but also to their prey and to predators. An octopus will make it look. There are octopuses who, because for those of you who don't know, the blue-ringed octopus is one of the most fucking poisonous creatures on the planet. Other octopuses will make themselves look like the blue-ringed octopus if there's a predator around, so that they don't get eaten, which is fucking smart. It's so goddamn smart. And another thing that they do is, that's what I was going to talk about, is that to other octopuses, this difference in texture and color actually has meaning. It actually, in the same way that humans have hundreds of words to communicate with each other, these octopuses have hundreds of different color and texture combinations to basically verbalize to each other. you know, and they, you know, they swell up really big to like simulate being seaweed, so that, you know, fucking predators swimming by will just think that they're seaweed, and you know, you gotta watch this fucking documentary. It's so fascinating how they've developed over time to just have all these different abilities and survival mechanisms and shit. Imagine living down in water, in complete H2O. Your entire body and house and everyone you know and everyone you love is surrounded by water instead of air. You know, it would just have to be a completely different mode of existence, you know? And at that point, it may as well be aliens. When you get in a submarine and you go down into the ocean, I don't know how often you do that, because I've never been in a fucking submarine, but anytime someone does that, they're entering another planet. That submarine is a spaceship going to another planet. It's so wild, dude. It's so wild. And it's funny that water was essential to the formation of life, you know? Could it, you know, or, you know, bioorganisms or biological organisms formed in water before they formed on land. You know, they were here first. We're the fucking aliens. They probably, dolphins who hop out of the water and get to see land for a second and see, you know, people on land and shit, they're probably like, what the fuck are they doing up there? Yeah, they're driving around in fucking vehicles, and, you know, they're building skyscrapers, and they have these screens that they watch that you know, tell them different shit, and, you know, they eat all this bizarre food. It's probably crazy to them. They probably can't even comprehend it, in the same way that I can't comprehend how to fucking be an octopus. You know? In the same way that being an octopus to me is fucking alien, it's the same way for them. I'm just speculating. I don't fucking know what an octopus thinks about, but, you know, it just trips me out. It trips me the fuck out to think about octopuses and how, again, like in this documentary, they said if they get any goddamn smarter, they will be able to kill us, because they're, you know, I mean, they haven't, like, designed tanks and fucking weapons of mass destruction and shit, but, you know, they're a lot more cunning than humans are a lot of times, and they also are a lot more sinister. You know, animals like that don't really have the same moral instincts that humans do, so if they were to be able to, imagine like a fucking 30-foot tall octopus, like, nobody would be able to stop that fucking thing. It'd be impossible. These things are so crazy strong and crazy. They have the thing that's like ants. You know, the way people describe ants is like they can, the strength of an ant is the equivalent to like a man lifting a car. You know, does that make any sense? Like they can lift up to 1,000 times their body weight or some shit. So that's like a man lifting a car. That's kind of the same for octopuses. They're way stronger than they should be for their form and shape, you know? It's fucking nuts. It's so nuts to me. You know? What if... What's interesting to me to think about is that on all these exoplanets that we're discovering, and all these planets that are in the Goldilocks zones of nearby stars and shit, you know, we're probably going to, when we fly by them with our satellites and shit, we're probably going to be thinking to scan the surface for life, right? We're going to try to look for signs of intelligent life, you know, on the surface. But what if we see that there's water down there? You know, well, I guess they would check that too, obviously. Scientists aren't that fucking dumb, but it just trips me out to think that, you know, it's like two sides of a coin. On one side, you have land animals that are all kind of functioning in their own way, and maybe they breathe, you know, fucking nitrogen on some other planet, or they breathe fucking helium. You know, any number of elements. You know, maybe they breathe that over there. But on the other side of the coin, there's an under-liquid world. It doesn't even have to be water. It could be, you know, what's another fucking liquid? I don't know. I don't know why I can't think of any other fucking anything else on the periodic table that's like a liquid. You know, but maybe it's a gas ocean. Maybe it's a ocean of neon gas or argon gas or some shit. You know, and they swim around down there. I want to be a creature that goes around swimming in fucking argon gas. You know why did I have to be born in this fucking gangly 6'3" body that is overweight and likes to smoke cigarettes and, you know, generally fucking hates the world? Why did I have to be born this way? Why couldn't I be a fucking octopus breathing argon gas? It's fucking cruel. If there is a God out there, he's completely failed me. And he's completely failed you. You know? God's an asshole. If there is a God out there, he's a fucking dick. You know? I'd like another roll of the genetic dice, please, God. If you have any fucking compassion in your heart, roll the dice again and let me come out another way. You know? I'm fucking blind. I don't know if, you know, a lot of the people who are listening who know me, you know. But for those of you who don't know me all that well, or you know, just don't know this or whatever, I'm fucking blind. I'm like pretty much almost blind. I have such terrible eyesight. Even when I'm wearing my glasses, I can barely read shit that's right in front of me. You know, it's like why did I have to be born that way? You know? You ever think about the fact that your parents had to fuck for you to be here? And how gross and inhumane that is? How fucking unorthodox and back-ass that is? What the fuck? Like, God damn it. And you know, octopus parents had to fuck too for there to be octopuses. You know? I wonder if octopuses think about that. If they think about their octopus parents fucking each other just for them to create this gelatinous blob that'll end up in the Monterey Bay Aquarium unscrewing jars for crowds of applauding scientists, you know? Maybe the octopus wishes it was me. I'd like to think that. I'd like to, you know, it gives me a little bit of peace of mind to think that the octopus wants to be me. You know? So we're about done here, folks. I mean, you know, I know it's a short one, but I'm really fucking tired and I don't have a lot to talk about. But, you know, I love you guys, and I love that this show is being a thing. You know, we're up to 12 subscribers on YouTube, which is, to me, it doesn't seem like anything at all. 12 subscribers on YouTube, it doesn't seem like shit. But to me, it's like, you know, there are 12 people that actively listen to me. You know, like every time I release a podcast, there's at least 12 people who are interested. And there's more on top of that, because there's lots of people who don't have YouTube accounts and just lurk on YouTube. There's lots of people who will message me on Facebook and be like, man, I love your fucking podcast. You're like such a good writer and shit. I appreciate it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything. I'm just saying it's really incredible to me that people want to listen. People want to subscribe on YouTube. We're like up to, I think, like 60 followers on Instagram. It's just awesome. I love doing this. So thank you so much for listening, you guys. Eat 10,000 dicks and get some sleep.